Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder and CEO of Publish Your Purpose. And I am here with Lisa Wise as we are in the middle of launching her new book called Self Elected. Welcome, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited because you launched your book just 2 days ago, and now we're here having this conversation. So, can we just kind of start off with just sharing a little bit about what Self Elected is all about?
Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me today. Self-elected is it's a very straightforward book. Actually, I'm kidding. It's a it's a book that's sort of an intersection of memoir, business how-to, and political economy. And I can offer it was very hard to pull that off, but I think it went well. So, self-elected is about my journey as a businesswoman who was not only interested in creating a sense of security for myself, but those around me, and using business to do so. And I'm someone who is the founder owner of a successful family of real estate management companies while I pursue and grow national brands, and I'm a known philanthropist. Um, those things are, I think, very emblematic of my success in business. And so the self elected is a chance for me to tell a story about standing up to stand out in business and why we should be unapologetically thoughtful and political in the way that we do our work. Because if we're waiting for government to make the changes that we need in this world, they're generations behind at a minimum. And business can and should be the most nimble player in creating a more just and equitable future.
Mm, so good. So well said, too. So succinct. What was your kind of inspiration for writing the book? Because clearly you embody everything that you've written about. So, like, what was that moment where you decided that you want to put this in the form of the book so others can kind of learn from what you've done?
Originally, I wanted to write a book about working as a team, and actually having the book be written collaboratively by my team members. And that was my vision because I understood as a successful entrepreneur having successful businesses, the only way to get there is with having a great team around you. So I wanted the book to be collaborative in nature and really kind of break patterns around how business books are crafted. They're typically written by a person, and that always seems to be ironic to me because no business is created and managed by one person. And so I thought, wouldn't it be really novel and exciting to do this with my team? And then I had to realize that nobody likes writing at all. um, and that I was the only one among us who would have an interest in crafting the language and getting those messages out. And then we were on a path to thinking about how to write this book. I had selected a book producer to work with and collaborate with. And then the pandemic hit. And actually, the book is very much uh, about that period of time in my life and what I wanted to look back on in terms of how I'd come as far as I had in business, what my responsibilities were to my team during a really painful and complicated time for humanity, not just business. Trying to think about my team members as three-dimensional people with big lives, and the world being very hard, and what that meant as a business owner and someone who not only cared about my client base but cared deeply about community and the team members that were making these business dreams come true. And so the book really became about that, and how we get opportunities as business owners that many don't, right? Which is to create life changing opportunities for people around us and to have impact on community. And I very much leaned into that more than ever. And I'd been focused on it from the beginning, but I really doubled down on that during the pandemic. And the book is very much about that and why it matters most to me to put justice over profit and my own success, very much so.
Yeah. Can you say the name of your subtitle? Because you just reminded me of it.
Yes, justice. That's the big piece. So it's called Self Elected: How to Put Justice Over Profit and Soar in Business. I had to get a bird word in there.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I love just so much of what this book is about and what this book embodies. And when you and I first connected, it was just like an instant connection in terms of similar mindsets and values in terms of how to approach business, because I think so often there's like this misconception that in order to succeed in business, you have to be ruthless and tough and run over people at every turn. And you are a brilliant, beautiful example of how you can be the exact opposite of that and do 10 times more and
Right.
just be more powerful, which is amazing.
Yes. Um, We do. I mean, the beauty of being in a business environment is that you really get to make the choices that work best for you. And what works best for me is working on behalf of others.
Yeah.
And I got to create a company that does just that. And it's a privilege to do so. And at the same time, I have finally achieved a life where I do have safety and security, where I am living in a nice house, and I have abundance. And the privilege for me is in being able to share that abundance through my business models. And um, there's more than enough to go around. And I believe in business, we get the unique opportunity to say, and then this is how we're going to invest in those around us rather than investing in our own bottom line.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so this actually is a nice segue to a foundation that you recently launched, as you're talking about kind of, coming from a place of, just being at that place in your life of having abundance. And you had mentioned already that you're kind of like a known philanthropist, which is also amazing. And so can you just kind of share the origin of your new foundation and what its purpose is?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because philanthropist implies I have a lot of money, but I believe I live a philanthropic lifestyle, which means I think about how what I'm doing has impact on those things around me. And I think about how I can have discrete and very explicit impact on things that matter most to me, and where I believe we need to do the most work as a country. And being in the real estate housing, or being in real estate, being in housing, being in home management, um, we as an industry have failed to and rarely, if ever, talk about what our industry has done to create d- racial segregation, the racial wealth gap, um, and we fail to remember that redlining, predatory lending, foreclosures, real estate investment trusts, even Main Street being bought up by Wall Street, all of these things do terrible damage to our BIPOC community, and the implications are deep, and they and it is truly a zero-sum game. I started to get very uncomfortable knowing that I was profiting from an industry that was so toxic, and did a lot of work around studying and trying to understand um, the intersection between race and real estate and what role I played in trying to think through a new kind of future, one that was more equitable and just. And so we decided very intentionally at some point during the pandemic, after George Floyd was murdered, to take a bold stance on housing inequity and advance a housing justice program that made funds available to first-time Black and brown home buyers, first-time BIPOC home buyers. And as with everything, I said, this will be really easy. What we're going to do is we're just going to help people buy homes with a down payment grant, and it's going to be no strings attached. So we won't have to do a lot of, back and forth. It'll be, and as with all things that I say will be easy, it was really complex. But in essence, the simplicity is what makes the program profound. And so what we do is we have a grant application program where people who qualify with generous, terms. In other words, the guidelines are not onerous, and and the criteria is very straightforward. Anyone should be able to fill out the application for a grant within 45 minutes without having to get up from their computer, or with someone that can support them in filling out that application.
Mhm.
There shouldn't be anything on the application that they would need to go research or look up. And the whole point is, we don't believe people should have to justify their interest in becoming homeowners.
Yeah.
And yet all of the programs around down payment assistance are just really bogged down in bureaucracy and accountability and reporting and applications and timelines. And so I was like, what's great about business? What's great about business is you can move quickly, you're nimble, and you get to make decisions quickly. So we did just that. We said, we're going to go ahead and open up the application round. It's going to be a one-page application. We're going to review applicants for impact, and then we're going to make selections within a 3-week period, and then tell them that they're going to, receive anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 for at closing for their down payment. And then if they can, we'd love to hear back from them with a picture.
Mm.
That is it. That's sort of the whole essence of the program, is to get money to people quickly,
Yeah.
for someone a windfall, and give them the opportunity to get to home ownership much earlier than they would have normally. This isn't about getting people from the ability to buy when they hadn't had the ability to buy. This is about getting people through that down payment savings process much more quickly. So maybe they get into a house 2 years earlier. So
Yeah.
think about the value of the equity they've built, the stability that you get from ownership, and whatever advantages you get from ownership, which may be being closer to work or being in a different or better school district. So
Mhm.
this is about accelerating the home buying process, creating windfall opportunities that we should all deserve, and letting people know that we're there to support them to do what they should with their home buying process instead of dictating for them what that looks like.
Yeah. That's like you said, there's such simplicity to this that it seems like why isn't this being done everywhere? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like what I'm hearing as you're talking. Like why is this not how this is done?
Well, ironically, I thought it was being done. So I thought, oh well, there's got to be a model for this. We'll just set up our own fund over here in DC, and we had committed initially $215,000 to the program.
Mhm.
Um, to date, we've had over 300 applications in Washington DC. We've made 21 awards. 11 families have moved into their homes. Last year, last grant round, we expanded the program to Philadelphia.
Mhm.
First round, we had 94 applications.
Mhm.
Uh, we'll make 6 grants in Philadelphia, and we've been able to raise fairly passively another $250,000 in funding. We see this as an exceptional need
Mhm.
that we'd like to meet. And we talked to our new national board of directors, and he said, I just want to tell everyone, like, we're coming to help. Because if we can imagine this program as successful as we'd like it to be, it will be all over the country,
Mhm.
helping people get access to resources without complication, so that they can get to the dream of home ownership and
Mhm.
not get bogged down by inequity and lack of opportunity.
Oh, it's so good. I hope that people model it, right? And like that kind of just speaks to your abundance mindset, right? Because if you were in a scarcity mindset, you'd want to keep this just to yourself and
Yeah,
just for you to do, when really it's like, please take it and replicate it and
exactly.
do better. Do better than what the industry is doing currently.
Exactly.
Mm.
I was thinking about I was sitting at I was lucky enough to get invited to a dinner with the Washington Business Journal, and it was a small format dinner about raising capital for minority-owned and women-owned businesses. And I was at the table as a woman-owned business, and I'm in the middle of doing a VC round for one of my businesses right now. Um, and they had banks at the table, CDFIs and other banks that are trying to like meet these financing and investing gaps. And they're talking about how complicated it is to like we try to get these $10,000 grants, but it's they're really hard to administer, et cetera, et cetera. And I just raised my hand in the corner. I'm like, can't we just give people $10,000 and then there are no requirements? Then they just have the $10,000, and they're like, well, but then how would you measure things? I'm like, I don't know. Ask them questions later. We don't need to lend people money. Sometimes we can just give it away, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love that so much. And so I'm curious, if you go back in time, like where do you think in your earlier days, like what is it about you that like you're coming to the table with like this mindset and this different way of approaching business, which I would love the day where it's not the different way of approaching business, it's just the way business is approached. But as you and I both know, we're a long way from that. But like, can you see anything from your past that makes you see how you ended up kind of having this philanthropic way of life?
I mean, I've relied on kindness from other people. I had experienced housing insecurity growing up. I had a very chaotic childhood. I lived in 23 different places before I got to college. Getting to college was sort of a miracle. I had a really, really poor educational foundation. And I recognized growing up in these small Idaho towns and across the West that I was not only vulnerable, but people around me were vulnerable. And that didn't feel good. So I thought, well, if I can solve a problem for me and another person, then that's just a win-win. And that also, you know, I'll be candid, I wasn't that well liked growing up. I was awkward. I was a closeted girl in a small conservative town, and I did not click with other kids very well. What came naturally and easily to me was entrepreneurship and making money. And like, I had a vacuum cleaning business. It was $1 a room, and that was great, except there were a lot of potholes where I lived. And so I kept dragging the vacuum through the potholes. And my mom was like, I don't think this is working out because we can't afford to get a new vacuum cleaner. But it was no problem. I just moved on to something else.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted what I did to transform myself and create opportunity for myself. And then like I wanted, and I also sort of felt like helping other people made me more relatable and likable. It's a pretty simple formula. I was like, oh, when I do things for other people, it's easier to make friends. It's easier to be liked. I feel like a better person. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And so generosity was really baked into my version of everything, whether it be entrepreneurship or, you know, lending someone a car. I've been so bogged down in work. My life is busier than it's ever been. And I heard from a friend that they were going to loan their car to their mom and they couldn't make it somewhere. And I was like, oh, well, do you need to borrow my car? And then I'm trying to figure out where I will meet this person to give them my car. I'm like, no, I don't have time to meet I don't even think they need a car, but here I am sort of like doing these backflips because I love just meeting people's needs. It feels great.
Mm. Just one more reason, we have discovered a number of commonalities as we have worked together. This is just another huge one into the mix. This is so good. So I'm curious, like what is next, right? So your book just launched. It's out. The goal is to influence and impact people. Like, if someone is picking up your book, like, what I guess what to start, what is your hope that they gain from having read your book?
Yeah. I want people to think about business as an agent of change, right? Instead of thinking about business as this, for-profit, commerce-based jobs creation, like all of those things are part of it. But businesses have culture, they have impact, they have influence in communities. I don't think we've looked at business as an opportunity to leverage change and equity, and that we can move quickly. The great thing about being in business, truly, to get back to that, you can do things quickly. Look at the Roe v. Wade decision and how businesses all started to self-elect and say, wait a minute, I think we're supposed to be having a position on how this world works. We do need to meet the needs of our constituents, and our constituents are our employees and their family members. I want people to rethink what we need and want from business in terms of advancing a more just and equitable future. And certainly there will be businesses that are on the other end of the spectrum for me. But I think more and more consumers, and in particular Generation Z, we know that they're going to be purchasing and procuring services a lot more in line with their value system than any generation before them. And unless your company has a sort of a purpose perspective, and unless you're clear about what it is you're doing, not only to make money, but to make a difference, then Gen Z is going to keep moving on. And they're going to find the company that does, because a material lifestyle is a lot less interesting to them. They want the right thing, and they want to buy it once. They're getting over the sort of consumption and material economy and thinking about the value of the interaction, the value of the transaction, the quality of the product. And so my company, I believe, is uniquely differentiated in that way. And so I should be far more attractive as a company because I am standing up to stand out.
I love that so much. I love the phrase that you just said of purpose perspective, because I feel like so often we talk about being purpose driven, and purpose is used, obviously, it's publisher purpose here, right? Like, purpose is a huge thing, but purpose perspective, like it makes it feel more accessible, because I think sometimes people are thinking, okay, how do I start this new thing, which could be a business, and also be mindful of the whole people over profits type of mantra and motto, but yet it's not that complicated when you really just start the right way right out of the gate. And it's just having a purpose perspective can help kind of guide your, it's kind of like the illumination of a path to helping people kind of get to that conclusion, which I love. Yeah. So brilliantly said.
I call it wise. I'm just
I know. I gotta start using the word wise instead. It makes much more sense. And then, like, what's next for you? Because you have a good number of very successful businesses. You have this amazing foundation that was just, that's doing so many good things. Like, what are I don't know, what's like next for you? Because I feel like on the surface, people would be like, oh, she's already done all the things, but obviously there's always more to do.
right. So for me, I'm at this really interesting crossroads as a businesswoman, as a person, right? So I do have a successful family of companies, and the foundation is really emblematic of my value system, and just moving and distributing wealth, right? And I have the book, right? So it's sort of like I have the trifecta, but what I've learned to do in business is to create opportunity for people they would never have had they not aligned themselves with what I'm doing as a businesswoman.
Mm.
And I crossed paths with two gentlemen over a year ago who took an interest in one of the brands that we had been working on. They had been working on something similar. And so together we relaunched one of our companies, which is called Birdwatch. Birdwatch is the homeowner's landlord. We provide maintenance services to homeowners who are usually bogged down and unable to access services when they need them. They're asking for referrals. Nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing in their home. And we just take care of all of that for you with a high touch concierge service, in-house maintenance technicians. We know what we're doing. We want your life to be easier. It's a high touch company. We're values based. We're a public benefits corporation. 1% of our profits will be going to Birdseed. And we're not talking about a local business, which is where I've always cut my teeth. We're talking about a national brand. So out of nowhere, seemingly, I had an opportunity to take this value system across the country. That to me is a once in a lifetime opportunity that is really a sort of a dream come true if it does come true, which means that we'll be able to create high quality jobs for people who are usually dismissed or disregarded in the workforce, people that work with their hands, people in the trades. We want people to have careers. We want to say, oh, Dan from Ohio, your body is tired, but you have a skill set that is extraordinary, and we can beam you in. And you can also telecommute and have a hybrid work schedule and help our maintenance techs when they're facing a problem that they may not have familiarity with. They can dial Dan, and Dan is in the room with them. So using technology, understanding the value of certain skill sets, doesn't matter if you went to college, it doesn't matter if you're a returning citizen. We can create transformational jobs for people at scale across the country. Having that opportunity ahead of me is just impossible to pass up because it's so aligned with what I want to do. And I do feel, and I am not a religious person, but I do feel a calling that this is what I'm supposed to be working on. And I figured out how to create a business and a family of businesses that do put justice first. I figured out how to be nimble. I figured out how to collaborate well with people. I know how to influence community. I'm not faking it. I think people know I'm the real deal. So I'm like, this is it. This is my big chance to make substantial change in people's lives. And then in the end, I'd like to get really, 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 really rich and then just give it all away.
Mm.
So there will be a couple things I will indulge in for sure, but I really just want to redistribute all the wealth I generate and make a difference in people's lives and help people buy more and more houses or help small businesses by just giving them money. Because it doesn't have to be a hard thing to share. It's really easy.
Yeah. Again, the commonalities. I just said to my partner the other day, I was like, I just want to be rich so I can just give money away to everybody and just brighten people's days and just like take that small burden that might be something that's like $500, but to them is like insurmountable, and to just be like, here, solve the problem. Like it feels so good to think about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love, and like your ability to be able to do this on such a scale makes me so excited to kind of see where all of this goes next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is such a good conversation. And I am just so happy that your book is out. I've been looking forward to your book coming out since we started, knowing like what a huge impact it has, the ability to make on people. So thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. I'm just so grateful. And so for anyone who wants to check out what Lisa's up to, because she does have a multitude of different businesses and things going on, it's meetlisawise.com. You can go there. And then if you would like to pick up her book, which is Self-Elected, you can do that wherever you prefer to purchase books from. I'm a big fan of supporting your local independent bookstore. And of course, Lisa's going to be on that right track too. And I feel like it's even more important to lean more on the independent bookstore side of things for this book in particular, because it's more aligned in the values. But bookshop.org, if you want to buy from an online bookstore, they support independent bookstores across the country and they have a great business model. So definitely check it out and get it wherever books are sold. And make sure you check out Lisa, follow her on all the interwebs and things. And I would say, if you're feeling philanthropic yourself right now and want to contribute to Birdseed, which is the foundation, that might be a nice feel good moment too, because you're going to help a lot of people that way.
And 100% of your donation goes to a home buying grant. We cover all the other expenses of the program.
That's so brilliant. Yeah. Because you could be like a lot of those national nonprofits that, like 90% goes to overhead. Whereas this,
I am the overhead.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so grateful to have you here and so happy about your book.
It was a great experience working with Publisher Purpose Press, and I'm not being paid to say that. That it was the easiest part of the journey has been working with you. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, everyone else, I will see you at another time. Lisa, I'll talk to you soon.